What is up, YouTube? Welcome back to my channel. It's Rahul. I am back from a week in New York slash the Poconos, the mountains, whatever. So today's video is going to be about my experience at the New Jersey CGU Fest 10K event that, as you can tell, probably wasn't a 10K. Got a lot of bad press on social media. So I'm going to give you guys a little bit of what happened actually at the event from a first-hand experience without any, I don't know, fluff on the details, any of the social media BS that you've probably been seeing, all that stuff, just a first-hand account of what happened there, how it went, and my tournament experience. And I ended up playing Rapid Strike Urshifu with Inteleon and Galarian Moltres. I ended up not dropping a set and making top 8. So if you want the list, you can skip ahead a little bit and just get to the list, grab the list, get out of here, do what you want to do. And I'll talk about the changes I want to make for Evolving Skies, etc., etc. in a second. So I'll start by talking about CGU Fest. Originally, I wasn't planning on actually attending because I had read the website, unlike a lot of people that attended, and realized that the pricing was not actually 10K, but contingent on the attendance. And this was something I read like almost a month prior, like when they posted it for the first time or second time or whatever. Like I read this the very first time, and then I on the second or third read through, I realized it was also store credit if you wanted the full amount. So this was not information that, as a lot of people were saying, this is not information that was sprung on us last minute. This was information that we had from the very beginning. Granted, the organizer or whoever was doing it from the Pokemon side was posting in a bunch of different Facebook groups, so the information was getting a little bit misled. But it was like very straightforward that it would be 10K if we got like 500 people. I in no way expected 500 people, so I didn't want to go. I had originally posed this to my parents saying that I was going to go with a couple of friends, but they all bailed, obviously, because the 10K was not actually a 10K. After we read the website correctly, and I was like, if nobody's going, I don't want to drive by myself, get a hotel by myself. I might go just to see people, but I don't think I'm going to play. Was my initial logic, just because I haven't seen a lot of these guys in a long time. Masks were required, all the good stuff, social distancing, etc. I just wanted to go see everyone, get some dinner afterwards, talk Pokemon, something I haven't done in almost a year and a half at this point. So we are getting to the date, blah blah blah. My parents end up deciding they want to do a family vacation. My sister's going off to her last year of college, actually like tomorrow or something. We just got back like today. So they wanted to do a family vacation. And she had some friends up in New York. So the kind of general consensus came down to we go together. She goes into New York to see some of her friends. And then I go to this tournament. And then my parents spend some time with my uncle who lives about an hour away, where I stayed as well. And then we go to the event. So I ended up, last minute getting a ticket. Didn't really care what's going to happen. And this is the kind of the deck I theoried. I put a YouTube video up on it about 2.5 weeks ago. I made very minor changes to the list just to kind of fix some of the stuff that I noticed. Took some inspiration from some of the Rapid Strike Urshifu lists I've been floating around, cutting down on some Switch cards, cutting down on some cards. But before I jump into the tournament itself, I want to address some of this stuff. First off, to all the staff and everyone that came out to run it, thank you guys so much. You guys did an amazing job. The turnaround time on rounds was incredible. We started like 9:30, 10 o'clock a.m. We were done with 8 rounds of BO3 Swiss plus deck check plus top 16 by like 8 p.m. We were out the door by like 8 p.m., which is crazy. Really good turnaround time. There was very minimal errors, I believe. There was like one broken game state from a player who had only been playing online until this point, which I expect to happen. Some of the players that have been only playing online and these like local and IRL events will be their first times playing in person, may lead to some broken game states, may lead to some situations where they're not so familiar with. So please be patient with these kinds of players. That was the only real penalty that happened. There was some rumor about someone getting disqualified. I don't believe that actually ever happened. Yeah, I don't think anyone actually got disqualified. I was there the whole time. I think there would have been a bigger deal raised about it. So we get to the event, or the day before the event, I'm just sitting around. I see on Facebook we have like 116 people. Obviously not the number I wanted to see. I personally expected around 200 people. But after talking to a lot of players, it seemed like because the Hegster event that was supposed to be on Sunday got canceled due to some issues. Ethan did post a post on his Twitter about it, so check it out. Due to that being canceled, a lot of players did pull out of the event because they wanted to make an overnight affair, make it like a 2-day thing, etc., etc. Sure, I get it. Whatever. Happens. Stuff happens, right? Like, no, not a big deal. I was still already there. I was going to play. No big deal. I get there. I think it was like 127 players, deck lists and stuff going. They said only the app, but the app wasn't amazing. So a lot of players were allowed to do paper deck lists, also completely fine. I vaguely also remember that prior to the event, both the Magic and the Pokemon event happening announced the amount of players they'd have, the amount of rounds they'd have, and that everyone would have a certain amount of chance, like a amount of time before round 1 starts, to get a full refund if they would like. And I believe that some of the organizers as well were like very candid about like, if you guys want a refund, because I know that this isn't the way it's going the way you want it to, we'll give it to you. So every person in that room playing knew that they could have gotten their money back. They could have gotten out if they wanted to. It really sucks for the people that flew in, traveled a long distance. But if you were like a local or something and you were making a giant stink about it, it is what it is. Like you paid to be there. Like it is. I'm just gonna take these off. But you paid to be there. Like that's what you could have gotten a refund at any given point. Like it's not a big deal, right? You could have gotten a refund. You could have gotten your money back. You could have gotten out. No situation. Round 1 starts. Everything's going super well tournament wise. Tournament ran super smoothly. I'll just address the cosplayers like really quickly. These like cosplayers showed up maybe round 3, maybe round 4. I don't remember exactly. It was around probably lunchtime. I don't know. There was these 3 females who showed up in albeit skimpy outfits that looked like they did not really know what was going on. They did not wear masks, none of the sort. And then they started walking around the aisles of the play area. And I believe the Pokemon staff themselves told them that they are not allowed to be in the aisles with a mask on, or without a mask on, sorry, and that they can't walk around during the rounds, which then proceeded to anger some of them, which they went to go sit in a corner. I remember I was overhearing them talk about how they were not going to wear a mask because it would mess up with their makeup or something like that. And then one of them left, and the other 2 just kind of sat there in a corner or like outside the venue. And if you wanted to take a picture with them, you could. It is what it is. The allegation or what people were saying is that some of the prize money went towards that. I'm unsure if that's true or false, but it does look like it did. They did seem to be paid to be there. It's not my problem. It happened. It was pretty funny, honestly. Kind of a meme, but shouldn't be getting as much like bad press or whatever that it is. That yeah. So that's on the organizer, not the Pokemon people side or whatever. That's just an organizer thing. So I'm gonna pull up the list now because I get you guys talking for so long. This is the list that I did end up playing. So let's go into a round by round report. The reason I played this list is I talked about this very in detail in my other YouTube video, pretty clearly about how Galarian Moltres gives you a pretty good shot with Dire Flame Wings at going into the Shadow Rider VMAX decks, which is probably your worst matchup. But Shadow Rider VMAX also I think is like a tier 2 deck because of the issues it has with setting up, specifically post rotation, and it has a couple of glaring weaknesses, especially with the Dark type, and you have to play things like Zapdos if you want to deal with it, and if you're playing Zapdos, your consistency is also a little bit ruined. So I kind of just played all the cards I wanted to play. I cut down on some of the switching cards that I had initially in the list to just kind of shore up my like Evo Incense counts, my Level Ball counts, and then I played the 4-1 count of energies back here. Kind of had a couple of stadiums to kind of deal with Path to the Peaks potentially sticking. So one of the biggest omissions from this list that I posted from my YouTube video earlier is the Crobat. I found that in a lot of situations, Crobat was just turning out to be a liability. Probably the worst starter in my deck by far. And the little bit of extra dig that it provided was not ever enough because this deck doesn't play that many turn and burn cards. By turn and burn, I do mean that when you are going through your deck, there's going to be some cards where you can just draw it and play it immediately, like Trainer's Mail, Acrobike, that kind of stuff. This format doesn't have that many turn and burn cards, so some of these cards are just going to get stuck within your hand. And when that happens, you'd rather just have a Dedenne, but we don't have Dedenne in the format. So I figured, what's the best way to get more cards? Do I just put another copy of Research back into the deck, or do I play another Level Ball to get Drizzile, to get Research? So I went with the Level Ball strategy to just get a little more, stuff going, the ball flowing. This is the final list I settled with. If Evolving Skies comes out, I do think the Galarian Moltres package comes out of the deck. I think this entire 2-4 line comes straight out of the deck. I think you put in a 1-1 Octillery line. I think you put in a Raihan. I think you put in a Medicham. And then I think you cut like Energy Search and something, and like the Cheryl probably, and put some more Fightings in. And then you have your deck. Like I think that's good. That's where you should want the deck to be. Maybe play some Call Energies as well if you want to. But the deck is good. I think the deck is good. I think this is my favorite deck right now in the format. So yeah, I'll go through my round by round report. So we had 8 rounds into a top 16 cut. My first round I went up against a player who had only been playing maybe a couple games up to this point. She was there to support her partner. She made that very clear at the beginning. He came up to me at the beginning of the table or the round, and he was like, "Hey man, I know you're like a well-known player. This is like her second or third game. Can you please like be like patient, whatever? You know, we've all been there. Like." So, I know, I took it naturally easy. She was playing Eternatus. The matchup was already, like, incredibly unfavored for her. So, I was kind of helping her through the actions. kind of guiding her through the game. You know, some of these players that have been playing online or just have not played in general and are coming into the Pokemon scene, it's going to be a little bit difficult for them to adjust. But we've all been there at one point or another, so please be patient with these people. We do want them in our community. It's an amazing thing to have all these new players coming in. So it was a really fun match. We like talked through the game. It was like a really funny game. And then game one kind of just went in my favor because Eternatus is already weak to me. I kind of told her, like, you should probably want to do this because of this. And she was like, that makes sense. I follow the logic. And I kind of like played my own game essentially in round one, or game one. And then game two, she had nothing. She like uber bricked. And then she at some point just conceded because I was doing the little hand flick that you do with cards. Like, I'm going to show you with codes like this thing. I was just doing this. And she conceded. And she's like, can you show me how to do that? So I did. And round one was a 1-0. The second round, I went up against, I believe it was, I'm going to mix up my rounds a little bit, I think. So please don't, like, crucify me. But I believe round two was Shadow Rider. And it was my first, encounter with Shadow Rider. I had just been theorying the matchup. Yeah, the first game did not go well. My setup was pretty poor. And I think by, like, turn 3 or 4, my opponent had, like, 7 plus energy onto the board. Made it really hard to do anything. They did reveal that they played Fighting Energy, basic Fighting, which gave me a pretty good indication that they were playing Galarian Zapdos, and trading quartz, etc., etc. So the list was pretty understood at this point. In a closed decklist format, game one is always used to get information, so it was really good. Game two, I set up super quickly. I got pretty much everything I needed onto the board turn one, attachment onto Urshifu, double Sobble down. Like, it was just a really, really good turn one hand. My opponent went ahead and dropped an Alchemy onto the bench and attached to the Alchemy, and they put down a baby Shadow Rider, I believe, and then their active was a Shadow Rider, I think. And then they just attached to Alchemy and passed. I already had a Rapid Strike energy out of the board, so I drew for turn. I researched, drew into my cards, got the Drizzile, into the Telescopic Sight. I had a Quick Ball or something, or the Passimian Raw. I managed to do that, go into the Urshifu VMAX, and managed to snipe the Alchemy as well as the Shadow Rider, and my opponent conceded on the spot. They said, I don't think I have a win condition, because I think I also got the Moltres down that turn as well, and they were just like, I don't think I have a win condition, my hand is not good. They recognized that immediately. Game three, they ended up going first. Their start was really, really poor. I think they opened Alchemy, I think, and they opened Crobat, and they benched Alchemy and passed. And I was like, wow, this is really good for me. So I got a pretty good start. I think game three was probably the best start I've ever gotten with the deck, where I opened Moltres. On turn one, I researched, got a Fighting Energy onto Urshifu, got a Dark into the discard, got like 2 Darks into the discard, got 1 onto Moltres, had the E-Switch in hand for turn 2, boss shenanigans as well. It was just a picture perfect game on my end, and my opponent never got a chance to play the game. Was really nice. So I'm up at 2-0. Round 3, I went up against a mirror match. Just Rapid Strike Urshifu, Inteleon with the Galarian Moltres, which I knew some people did take inspiration from my YouTube video, or had the idea in their mind already. I'm not going to, say that people didn't have the idea. It's a pretty simple idea. The lists were fundamentally different. It felt like the opponent was playing a lot more switching cards, like my earlier iteration. And I think they definitely misunderstood the matchup, because both games 1 and 2, they were chasing my Rapid Strike Mons more so, or my Urshifus, and I was taking my sweet time just sniping off their Drizziles and their Sobbles and their Inteleons, because if you start doing that, then you have to just knock out one of the VMAXs. But they eventually, both games, put themselves in a scenario where I could just Cheryl off all their damage, or just sack one thing for 3 prizes, and just kind of put them in a situation where they couldn't snipe my benched Inteleons, and the pings from quick shooting would start adding up really quickly, and the game would end. So that's how it went down. So now I'm at 3-0. Round 4, I ended up going up against a big basic toolbox, utilizing the Stadium Circhester Bath and the Cape of Toughnesses, playing Zacian, playing Galarian Moltres, all these cards that are built for typing. So you have Intrepid Sword, you have your Metal Saucers, you have Dire Flying Wings. You kind of utilize all these things plus Aurora Energy. Both games he didn't really set up, which I think is the crux of that deck, because if you're not getting something off of Intrepid Sword, you're not drawing cards. And at that point, you're kind of getting stuck, and you don't have an engine like Drizzile or Inteleon. You don't have the Inteleon engine. You don't have these engines of old. You just have your researches and your Crobats, and you have to just kind of get your hand down low enough to use these Crobats. And both games, it just felt like he had big hand sizes. Like every turn, every game, he had Intrepid Sword 2-3 turns in a row to just set up his hand, and nothing happened. And I had double counter stadium, and I didn't expect Circhester's Bath to be a stadium. Very good stadium if you guys are watching this for the future. But I had 2 stadium cards, so I could just counter it whenever I wanted to with Drizzile. Was really easy. Didn't feel tough. 4-0. Now I go up against round 5. I believe it was... I want to say it was a mirror match once again. but I could be mistaken. I think it was a mirror match. The game kind of went exactly as I wanted it to. Once again, like where my opponent did not deal with my Urshifu VMAXs properly, and I just kind of went for the snipes where I could. And I think the difference maker ended up being the Moltres, where both times I would hit like the Rapid Strike Urshifu for 120 sometimes, and then I would kill like a Sobble or a Drizzile or something, and then I would have the Moltres come in and do the 190 plus like a ping to clean up and end the game. Also, them having a Crobat and me not playing Crobat really ended up hurting my opponents every single time. So yeah. Then game 3, I went up against, so I 2-0'd that, I believe, and I'm 5-0. And then round 6, I went up against Shadow Rider as well, once again with Alchemy. This time I think the line was much thicker. It was Chris Franco, local of mine, very good friend, really good player as well. So Chris ended up, I believe game 1 was like just kind of like the perfect like harmony of everything in my hand, like turn 2 Telescopic Sight Passimian into Rapid Flow onto like the Alchemy plus something else. Like it was just poetic. Game 1, game 2 was just kind of a one-sided affair on his side where my hand just blew. Game 3, I had everything again on turn 1 where I had the energy, etc., etc., and then I ended up missing the VMAX on turn 2 to Rapid Flow. So his Alchemy, like, but he had the Alchemy in the active, so it wouldn't have mattered to like hit the Alchemy. It would have mattered so much more to just Rapid Flow in general. Just get the energy, like the damage onto the board, something like that. Really sucked because I missed that. So I ended up hitting him for 150 with 100 Furious Blows, and then he came back up with the knockouts. And I believe I had another guy down, so I ended up doing the Gale Thrust plus a quick shooting ping to knock out the active. And then I don't remember exactly how I closed out the game, but I think it was just literally powering up Moltres that next turn. I think I literally, the following turn after this big guy went down, I think I literally had Moltres plus Boss to close out the game, which was really a lifesaver because if Moltres wasn't in the deck, I think I'd lose the game every single time. So now I'm 6-0. I double ID into cut. There's a lot of Zacian decks, which are really favorable for me. There's a lot of Ice Rider decks, which I also believe are favorable for me. But I end up hitting the Ice Rider in top 16. This game was streamed or like recorded, so if I can get the footage for it, I might do my commentary over it. So if you guys want to let me know in the comments below. I won't spoil it too much, but I did win the series. It was really close. Game 3 was kind of a nail biter. I won't lie to you guys. All 3 games were like nail biters the entire time. I won't lie to you guys. I didn't realize how scary Ice Rider actually is. Yeah, ended up winning that set. And then top 8, we all decided to split the money and head out of there because it was getting like 8 o'clock and everyone was a little bit tired. This is a long day at Pokemon where none of us are back to being used to that, honestly. So yeah, it was actually a really well run event. Masks were required the entire time. Nobody actually made a real problem about it. Social distancing was also required. It was a good event. I definitely think it was one of the better events for the first IRL event coming back. There wasn't that many problems. It's just that social media likes to be very negative these days. So when looking into something, I definitely implore you guys to take your own thought process before jumping on the bandwagon of just this sucked because X, Y, and Z, or like I saw some things where people were saying there was like pimps everywhere and like stuff like that, and there was homeless people outside the venue. No, the venue was absolutely gorgeous. It was in a very nice area, food everywhere, hotels everywhere. Like the venue was clearly meant for more than like 100 people that day, or like 200 people including Magic that day. But it is what it is. It was a very nice venue. I definitely could see us having a regionals there. Yeah, I don't know. Like, I definitely tried to stay off social media after because I didn't want to like kind of defend everything and have people throw stuff at me. But I've said my 2 cents here in this video. I did enjoy it. If you guys are going back to locals, having IRL play, you guys can definitely feel the euphoria that I feel right now from just playing and having a good time. Didn't drop a single set. Feels really good to still be good at the game. Yeah, I don't know what else to say, but if you guys are enjoying the content, thank you so much for subscribing. Like the content, you know the deal. We'll be doing a lot more videos this week. I've got a lot of big stuff planned up. To make up for the fact that I've been gone for the past week on vacation, I will try to get a bunch of videos out this week, guys. No promises, though. I need to do some work, like actual work. But thank you from the bottom of my heart for everything. And until tomorrow, peace, guys.